Hello, I'm Lucy. I'm a fine art beader and I paint with beads. But today I'm going to talk a little bit about embroidery on this sewing machine. And if you may recall that I did a piece of embroidery using this machine at the start of lockdown here in the UK, March 2020. And I was asked if I could show my process. That was end to end, start to finish. And I thought I would try and do that with you here today. It might take a couple of videos to go through, but there's a creative part to the process and there's a technical part to the process. So I'm going to mostly start with the creative at the beginning because that leads you into your technical side of things. So if you want to skip that, you can skip ahead to the technical side and go fast forwards to the time that's being shown on the screen now. But if you're sticking with me, we're going to be talking through the creative process to start with. So bear in mind, this is my creative process, and everybody's creative process is going to be different, but it might give you a few ideas about what you can do, how innovative you can be, how you can create some creativity for yourself as well. So I'm just going to share with you that. From the technical side of things, I'm working with a truly fabulous machine here, a Janome 5270 QDC. I can never remember that, QDC. And it's really, really great. It has a wide range of stitches and it's called a computerized machine, but it's not connected to a computer in any way. I can't draw something and then put it through some software and then download it to this and it stitches away and does the creation. It doesn't work like that. It itself is computerized, so you tap in the stitches that you want to use. So if you want to be creative with it, you have to think creatively and do things slightly differently, and that is the challenge. That's combining the creative and the technical together. So you have to think in not such straight lines. So the creative process. So one of the first steps in the creative process is to decide what it is you really want to do. And like a lot of artists at the start of lockdown, I felt that I had to do something about lockdown or be inspired by lockdown in some way or influenced in some way. So I did a lot of thinking, and it always happens to me. I always have to do a lot of thinking, which actually that means watching the TV, looking out the window, taking a walk, doing some mindless things until you start thinking about what it is that you really want to put into that particular piece. And I decided I would take a look on Twitter, and why not use something absolutely modern and up to date? An artist doesn't have to be stuck in the past. Use the social media that's around you. So I had a look on Twitter and went to number 10 Downing Street and collected some of their tweets all about the lockdown and the pandemic. And it was quite interesting to take a look at those because they were mostly rules, sound bites, some fantastic sound bites. And I wrote them down in coloured gel pens, just played around with them. And looking back at them now, they look kind of strange and almost simplistic in a way, really simplistic. So I decided I would catch up, see what was going on. So I'm doing the same thing now. I've collected a selection of tweets from number 10 on Twitter, just December. This is December now, 2020, and I've drawn them out again. But there are far fewer tweets, and it really reflects the fewer sound bites that we've got now. It's become a whole lot more serious, and whilst we have rules, it's now moving on to personal responsibility. That's the key thing. So a few of the things now are keep it small, short and local. That's your Christmas bubbles, hands, face, space, stay alert. But none of this is particularly inspiring for me, I've got to say. So I tend to be a kind of positive artist. I guess that's it. So there's got to be some movement in the piece. It's got to be going forwards. It's got to have that ray of hope really in what I do. I didn't want to really go down the path of being dour and dire there has to be some hope. So I might call the piece The Light at the End of the Tunnel, but as this is quite literally, I'm actually doing this filming as I do it. I don't know exactly how it's going to end or what the piece is going to even look like yet. So I might change my mind about the name even. So we'll see how it goes and how my views change as we go down the creative process. I thought about the imagery of the NHS COVID app on the telephone. I thought, well, wondered if that could translate into what I want to do. But it didn't for me. I drew it out, I took a look at it, I even translated it into Beatool. That didn't really click for me for a positive, forward-looking piece of work. Then I must say I rather liked the imagery of the people in this, so I put that into Beatool, and because of the unusual background, it came out like this, which is rather spooky. It's almost as if the people were dissolving, and I really do like the effect, but again, it's not for this project, and I might use that kind of effect in something else another time. So then I tried a little bit more on the people. I thought, well, I could do them in cross stitch, so I turned to my collection of books on techniques and cross stitch and beadwork and stuff to see if I could get any inspiration from that. So I had a look at that. There was nothing really on people, so I started drawing it out, and it wasn't well, it got a little bit better, but I've got to say not that brilliant. It wasn't that inspired. It really wasn't working for me. And the point I'm trying to make really about the creative process is that you really need to experiment and go down blind alleys and dead ends and just keep testing, because you never know what you're going to find. Like that's the spooky people effect, and there isn't a right way or a wrong way. And I remember somebody writing to me and saying, that she would have to keep on practicing. I said, no, practice. You can practice as much as you like, but experiment. Just keep on experimenting, and that's the thing. You don't know what you'll hit upon and what new creative thing you will create. I kind of like the idea of people coming together. So I like the people side of it, but I'm looking for some other imagery that is going to be much more positive and inspiring. And you know, it's midwinter now, looking forward to the spring. Things will get better. They'll always get better. And what can I think in there? So I was just staring around idly as you do, and I enjoyed just looking at this bin. I think it's a kind of Orla Kearley type effect or design. I don't know if it is or it isn't, but I like that sort of full bloom effect with the leaves and so on. So that was one of my first elements to go in there, and I think the next thing I need to do is to think about what will the people in the piece look like. And that's the real question at the moment. So, as I said, I have this fabulous machine, and this is now back to technique. Okay, so I'm starting to think about, this is what I want to create, this is the effect, and what can I do with this machine? And one of the things that I did, I invested some time in getting to know the machine, and I actually went through all the stitches on the machine and stitched them 3 or 4 times, and in that stitching process I actually labelled it up the different modes. So I labelled it mode 1 or 2 or 3 and what the numbers were, so I could really see what it looks like. It's really important to do this, to be able to see what the stitches look like, so you can see the effect. And I'm using here some Hobbycraft canvas, this cross-stitch canvas, and I have to say, I'm breaking all the rules here, if there are any rules, I don't know, but cross-stitch canvas isn't necessarily the best material to use for your machine embroidery. In fact, I'm pretty certain it's not the best. But what I was looking for in that first piece was a kind of folk arty feel, a bit like a sampler. So that's why I put the little cross stitch hand that I did by hand myself, cross stitch houses on there, because I wanted to deceive the viewer. If they looked and thought, oh, it's just a sampler, they have to look harder. What happens with the cross stitch material is that your needle might go to either side of that, the threads as it sews, and so you won't get quite the smoothness. It'll be a little bit sharp around the edges as it stitches, I would say. So I did a thorough test of all of these, and it gives you an idea, because you can't always see in the diagrams what it really looks like until you print it, and you don't want to make a mistake. There's an awful lot of stitches to unpick after all. The stitches that I'm using, if you have this particular machine, are for the leaves, mode 4, stitch 17. For branches in the tree trunk, mode 2, stitch 5. And for some of the flowers, mode 3, stitch 3. First of all, it's a good idea to edge the material when it arrives, and then put that into the washing machine, give it a good wash and a good iron, and you will find that it shrinks. It will shrink. And then what I do is add on an iron-on backing, because this gives a little bit more robustness. It makes it flatter and smoother, and you can also use that backing to help hide some of the stitches and the ends of the stitches from the front of the piece, if you understand what I mean. I use a Genome backing, and that works a treat, I find. So that's a technical bit to help prepare the material. To say, you'd probably look for a smoother, slightly more robust material, but I haven't in this case. I just set to and took out my Genome embroidery threads, looked at them like a palette of paints, and started putting together a piece of scrap material, this here. And I think I quite like the mix of colours. I don't like the red on there. I don't like the very bright yellow. The pale blue and the green is okay. That works well. But a little bit of pink and a little bit of the mustardy yellow will go quite nicely. So that'll probably work. Do come back, and next time I might have decided how to do the people. Don't know how to do them yet, but I feel like there's something there that I need to explore and come back with, and then begin to put the piece together, and we'll see what happens. It may be a bit of embroidery on the machine, maybe something else, and I might actually have a design for the whole piece, and I might use some of the words that we have from the Twitter account of Number 10. We shall see. So hopefully this has been of interest. I don't know, but do give me your comments and questions. Please subscribe, share and like, and all those good things, and see you next time. And we'll go on to the people and see what happens. See you soon.